Merry Christmas! Happy Christmas! Anyone knows that movie? Hey everyone, it's me. It's Fast Eddie. Back on the airwaves for free, making a ruckus, stretching back out into the YouTube. Got my Christmas Gansey on. It's pretty nice. It's festive. To ride to live right there. How you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing well, Eddie. Christmas Day slate is one of my favorite basketball days of the year, so I'm jacked up, man. Ready to go.
Jacked up and good to go. Same. I almost don't know where to go. I want to thank someone asked. I got a Christmas gift from one of our lovely FTN subscribers today. This is not, point of fact, Voldemort. This is Snape that somebody sent me with a note that said, I see this is the look you're going for with your hair. I figured this would be an inspiration. So that's sweet of
Very
someone
nice.
who can see I'm letting the locks grow a little bit, and so they figured they'd send me Severus Snape of House Slytherin there, alliteration for the win. So here we go. Happy to be back. Put a lot of time into this one. Spent a few hours in the chat this morning since about 6 a.m. our time, talking with the various subscribers at the FTN chat. Shout out to the founder of the feast, Kevin Adams, and the other big muckety mucks over here at FTN, putting me back on the airwaves, a rebel, for free today. Miss a lot of you guys who I've been fortunate enough to interact with over the years. I hope everyone is having an excellent Christmas. Yes, I will try to keep track of all three chats because we have the FTN site chat, the YouTube chat, and the FTN Discord over here. I will do my best to track all three of those. Feel free to just spam me. You can send a tweet in there too. I'll get that one going. I'll get all four up. I have a lot of monitors. We'll do the best we can. We got an hour and a half for 5 games, so we're taking it kind of mellow. Yes, anything you send me that is not obscene, I'll put in that. I have another shelf I'm putting up for the background of the stream, so you can send me all the action figures or dolls that you'd like to. If they're obscene, that's fine. Send them anyway. I just won't put them on air, but I will accept any obscene materials anyone wishes to send me. Zach, anything you wish to say before we get into this voodoo that we do so well?
I know there's been a lot of people around the DFS space kind of clamoring, wondering where you went if they weren't with us in the bubble last year. So we're here now. We're free on YouTube. So this is where Eddie is at. FTN Daily.
Minutes. Yeah, for the next 90 minutes. You found me. I'm right here. And
so I see some people saying Daddy's back, and you are indeed back.
I never went anywhere. In many ways, the big boy never left. I think is the saying we're looking at. So, all right, here we go. 5 games today. Nobody on a back-to-back. Everyone on one, some on 2 days of rest. Those 4 teams who played on the opening day of the season on Tuesday. Everyone else played on Wednesday. Nobody playing tomorrow, making that nice and easy. So we'll go ahead and get into this first game. Again, we got them staggered about every 2.5, 3 hours throughout the whole day. It's a great day. You can just sit there and pound some eggnog, eat too much, and spam basketball for many hours. Before we get into game one, I guess some important notes. We already got the Jimmy Butler will start news. I don't know if we got the lineup from the Heat, which we'll get into in a minute, but I expect to see his starters change. I don't. I'm a why you got to be Mo Harkless fan. I like Mo Harkless, but he's 2 inches taller and about 10 pounds lighter than me. I don't think he's guarding either Zion or Steven Adams with a great degree of success. So I do think they actually make a change there, even with Jimmy Butler in, but we'll see how that goes. Maybe not. But unfortunately, this is one of the few games in which we had some actionable news on. We already know Jimmy Butler is in. So looking at the start of a day like this, I would like to say, of course, be ready to late swap. Keep an eye on late games, keep an eye on news and stuff, but there's not a ton of news upcoming. The Warriors starting lineup could be interesting. Steve Kerr made clear to Demur when asked whether or not you would have Eric Pascal starting again. You could get a different starter there. That's not going to make you really happy. There's nothing wonderful that's going to come from Juan Toscano Anderson is starting. You could get more actionable information like Weissman is starting next to Looney. Possible. Weissman is starting next to Chris. That's possible. I think it would be Looney before Chris, by the way. A couple of people have asked, but someone else may start at the 4 there. depending on who it is, that may or may not do a ton for you, but there's not a ton of pending news. So again, the first thing we check at the start of every day is basically, does this look like it's going to be a really profitable slate? And as of right now, not terribly slow. It's not bad. There's a lot of casual people playing today. That's always good news. Casual people don't know what's going on. Football people, obviously known for their stupidity. I'm going to get for that one. Football people are in there playing today. Drunk people, eggnog people. So there'll be a little bit of an advantage there. It's not a bad day from an EV standpoint right now, but not a ton of moving pieces. And again, what makes you the most money in basketball is the moving pieces. Anything else you want to hit before we get into our first game, Narlands?
No, let's do it.
Okay, let's get into Narlands visiting Miami. New Orleans 1-0 after beating Toronto. Raptors had actually won 7 consecutive opening games of the season, but Stan don't care about that. Stan doesn't care whatsoever about that. The Raptors win the first game of every season and lose the first game of every postseason series. I'll lead off here. Let's start with let's start talking about the two forwards. Zion was obviously a favorite DFS play going into game one and was fine for his price. Wasn't brilliant, but had 15 and 10. 6 turnovers is a little more than you wanted to see. Some of the more concern there would be that the volume was really not. He took 9 shots. He took basically half as many shots as Brandon Ingram, if you're just going to look at the 3 and the 4 on that team. And his fantasy score wasn't that brilliant, even being very efficient. He made 7 to 9 baskets, I think. And picked up a steal and a block. He'll actually average more than both those numbers. So those were slight down for him. But that was a really tough matchup. But I do think, looking forward, when we look at more difficult matchups for this team that have strong defensive, both Zion and Brandon Ingram basically were only guarded at any significant length of time whatsoever by Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. And Zion got a little more Anunoby than Siakam and vice versa for Ingram, but roughly the same situation. And Zion, having rewatched that game, fell into a lot of targets of opportunity where, back-to-back rebound comes to him more on the offense, and this is most easily viewable by the number of shots they took. Brandon Ingram played a much larger role. Zion, while he's getting better, doesn't have the best face-up game yet, isn't, just running right in there and dominating one-on-one against strong competition. So I think that's something we can look at as we get later into the year for the matchups where, when it's a little stickier, I think we can be a little more inclined towards Ingram taking over more of a leadership role. And additionally, Ingram's role, I think we have to look at being enhanced because of specifically the absence of Drew Holiday. Ingram's on-off numbers last year, especially when he was on without Drew Holiday, were really significant in a number of ways, but most relevant in the number of assists per 36 he would get. And we saw I think he had 11 dimes in that game. 11 dimes in 9 rebounds. It was 11 dimes in 9 rebounds. He missed the triple-double by a rebound. So he had 11 dimes. That's a lot. So I will say that I do expect this to normalize a little bit today. They're going to be similar productive fantasy. I actually think Lonzo in the long term will be Lonzo. I actually think Zion they both have a Z in their name, I guess. I think Zion in the long term will be the slightly more productive of them, depending on the matchups. And again, Zion has a significant boost here. While the Toronto and Miami defenses are reasonable simulacrum of each other, one of the ways in which the Miami defense is going to come up a little lacking is absent James Johnson, absent some of the guys they've had there. At least in their current starting lineup, they don't really have a great big body matchup to go down there. They're going to start basically every day Adebayo, Butler, Hero, and Duncan Robinson. Those 4 guys are going to start and play 30 minutes. And while Harkless started the first game, I'm not certain Mo Harkless is going to get out there again for this game. Now, maybe they try that. Harkless is a very good defender. That's what he's in that lineup for. He played 23, 24 minutes in that last game, took only 4 shots. Is not a real fantasy quantity. Not someone I'd be super interested in, even if he started. But he, again, is, I think, 210 pounds listed. He's going to have trouble dealing with either Steven Adams or Zion, and he's going to have to guard one of those guys. So you might see big body Myers Leonard re-enter the rotation or start. You might see Kelly Olynyk get out there and just provide a little more heft. So I'll be interested to see the starting lineup for the Heat as we get to that point. there's a number of things. I'm going to open up some chat windows and try to figure out what the hell's going on here.
Sure. So yeah, I actually thinking about that, Miami lineup and the differences we could see today, that's pushing me on to a little bit more Kelly Olynyk than I'm comfortable with right now. But I think that it's a matchup that they'll need, as you said, either some more Kelly O, maybe some Myers Leonard out there. I don't think, and I think I saw you discussing this in our FTN Daily Discord chat, Precious Achua, the rookie who backed up Bam last game. I think Kelly O and Myers Leonard are more well equipped to handle the front court of Zion and Steven Adams than the rookie. Even though the rookie's I think Achua is going to be a fine player. I'm finding myself on some power forward eligible on DraftKings Kelly Olynyk for 4-1. I kind of prefer him in GPPs to like a Maxi Kleber, who we'll get to. I have shares of Kleber as well. I have some lineups with both. But Kelly O is kind of where I'm getting some of my off the wall value today.
That sounds great. All right, I got 2 chats open. I'm opening the third and final chat. Oh God, I see my own ugly face. Let's mute that. The sweater, however, brilliant. All right, we'll take that, swing that over there. Okay, we've got most of this. I see everyone in the YouTube chat. That's like our people. I see Josh and John.
Uh-huh.
So you guys are killing me here. All right. All right. So let's get into talking about these plays in a bit more of a whether or not to deploy them in DFS sense. So starting again with New Orleans, they basically ran a 7-man rotation. They off the bench, I think you got up to 14 minutes of Nicola Melli there, but that was even based on some extra foul trouble that Zion got into, by the way. There's been a bit of conversation over the last couple of days where people said, I think you overblew Zion's minutes. And that, because I said I thought Zion was going to play 34, 35 minutes. He was going to play 34 or 35 minutes. He sat the final, I think, 8 minutes and 10 seconds of the first half and still missed 30 minutes by a couple seconds. Maybe it got 30. Yep. But I think 34 or 35 was going to happen. So he had 3 fouls in the first half. Also, something else that got variously misreported around the industry. Lonzo had 3 fouls in the first half. And I had to actually raise my Lonzo projection a little bit as far as my rankings, which are up for the subs at FTN right now. I had to pick that up a little bit because most of the places recorded him as having only 2. If you go to Popcorn Machine or various other websites that track play data, that track the game by game, most of them only listed him having 2 fouls in the first half, and that caused a number of people, including myself originally, to think that Lonzo, irrespective of foul trouble, got only 9.5 minutes in the first half. He got pulled because he did get 3 fouls in the first half. So that had a lot to do with a number of things, including the fact that we had Eric Bledsoe get 20.5 minutes, I think ended up being the number in the first half. That was a related quantity. So that could certainly cause you to be slightly less excited about Eric Bledsoe and a little more excited about Lonzo Ball. Now, Lonzo still got up to, I think, 28 minutes and some significant change. And was funky. He had fewer assists than the other 4 starters. He got out-assisted by Adams in that game, and Zion, and Bledsoe, who had 6.
No assists, I think, right? For Lonzo?
Lonzo 2 assists, I think. I think he had 2 dimes.
All second half, I think. I'm thinking
that may be possible. I'm just remembering the box. I think he had 5 or 6 rebounds. He took 8 threes, made 4 of them. I think he had 2 dimes, but the other stars had 3, 3, 6, and 11, I want to say. Now, it's not going to be that low. And I like Lonzo plenty as a player, but it is worth pointing out that the changes to this team, I do think, actually caused him to regress a little bit this year, also setting aside the minutes crush. And at this point, it's not an unreasonable stand to me to just say that Lonzo is just a worse player than Eric Bledsoe. And I like Lonzo. And E-Bled gets a lot of crap, especially because of his postseason struggles. And that's fair. He earned a lot of that. But if you're trying to win games, you should play more of Bledsoe and less of Lonzo. He might be slightly better at every part of the game. They're actually reasonable simulacrum for each other as players. They're very, very similar. But they played basically a 7-man rotation. If they hadn't given the extra time to Melli, like Melli played, I think 9 minutes in the first half and 5 in the second, give or take a minute here or there, it would have been like 5 and 5. So they were going to play 10 guys, but 3 of them are going to play 5, 8, and 10 minutes. They were basically going to play a 7-man rotation. Those are the only 7 players I ranked today. They had Josh Hart and JJ Reddick play 27 and 29 minutes off the bench. They're both in play today, certainly on a 5-game slate. I have Reddick ranked slightly higher. I have him producing more fantasy points, and he costs a little bit less, so I'd defer a little more there, though he will be more owned than Hart. We are a little starved for value today. Last guy I haven't mentioned, Steven Adams, scored 20 fantasy points in the first 8 minutes of that game and then played like Steven Adams for the rest of the game. Love me some Steven Adams, real defensive presence. That's, that was... a bit of an anachronism. I think he ended up with 6 stocks. Fine to get to Steven Adams. Center, once you get under Jokic, isn't terribly brilliant. So, feel free to have some exposure. I ranked him. That's what that means. Certainly not that expensive at 5,900, but the matchup not particularly good. The time should be there. He's done a very good job against Bam Adebayo. But before we get into the Heat and Bam and the rest of that, why don't you talk to me about anything else you got to say on the Pelicans?
Yeah, so I think we don't differ too much there. I was going to mention that I kind of like, I think Garrett Bledsoe is going to be chalk today, and I think for good reason. He's a better player with the time we can expect him to get than the $5,600 price tag on DK. But with that Lonzo foul trouble and 6,500, Lonzo's going to be, I think, much lower owned. I'll check Kyle's ownership projections. I haven't done that yet for those 2 in particular, but I kind of like Lonzo spending up 900 more at your point guard spot as a pivot off of Bledsoe. Outside of that, I like Zion and Brandon Ingram just fine. I think they're a little bit too cheap, but I don't think I'll be over the field on either just with what I'm spending up on today.
Yeah, and I can see that being that I really enjoy the pivots there. Like you and I are both big fans of Kevin Durant, I think, and we'll come back to that at a certain bit. And that's more of a slam dunk on FanDuel, where they neglected to change the prices since the start of the season, and he was ludicrous. We'll get to that game eventually, but the last preseason game and the preseason game in Boston, people are like, I don't know, I think Kevin Durant's rusty. I'm like, I don't think he's going to be rusty at all. And he went out and crushed the Celtics in that preseason game. And then the opening game of the season, people are like, I don't know, I'm worried he's going to be kind of rusty. I'm like, I've been watching him. He's had like a year off. He could have played at the end of last year, and they actively talked about it. I think the dude's 100%, and he went out and looked extremely good in whatever 25, 26 minutes he played in the 28, maybe, whatever. He crushed the living crap out of the Warriors, who we'll get to momentarily. And then again, people today are like, well, I don't know if he's. I'm like, I got nothing left for you. I've no evidence to think that he's not 100%. Like he's a couple years older. I'll give you that. Let's look across the ball. Talk about the Miami Heat for a little bit here. Do we have a lineup?
I have not seen one yet, and I know it's the first game and we'll get one. But to be honest, the later that comes, I think the better it is for us today.
Oh yeah, please. Yeah. Push that crap back.
Push it back.
So we had 3 possibilities. We now have 2. One is that Jimmy Butler will play unfettered, and the other one is that Jimmy Butler will be in some way, either in performance or time on the court, limited. I find the second one to be kind of unlikely. I think he generally plays without much restriction, and I think that makes him pretty appealing in tournaments. You're not often going to get 5-6 steals, but this is a match in which I do think they will continue to try and drive, and he's going to try to push to the interior a lot. I worry about Tyler Hero starting at point guard, which is not really his natural position. I think it will evolve into more Bam games like we saw in the last game, where they're running a lot of the offense through him, through the high post. So especially with Jimmy back in there, it definitely changes my opinion to this game. But Jimmy Butler was a 5 in cash and an 8 in GPPs on a 1 to 10 scale in my rankings today. 5 being like you really don't want him. You probably don't want to play anyone in cash who I have ranked under like 7 under almost any circumstances. There's just some chance he's injured, and there's lots of guys to spend up on in cash. That seems wrong. But in GPPs, he's got the mark of Cain on all the sites next to his name, indicating he might not be 100%. And there's a real chance you get Jimmy Butler on a 5-game slate at 6% ownership, and he can be much, much better than that. And again, if we look at, I'm pulling up the ownership from that last monstrous slate we had. Some of the ownership is incredible. If I just read the ownership percentages of the top 5 players in GPPs on the Wednesday slate, it was 2%, 5%, 2%, 4%, 2%. Things like that will happen with a fair degree of frequency. There was nothing wrong with Luka, who had a pedestrian game for him and got his 50, and Giannis and Embiid and Towns. Other people just got there a little bit better. You could easily see Jimmy Butler put up 57, and Davis doesn't have a big game, and LeBron is limited, and Luka, who doesn't have a great matchup, struggles just a little bit with the Lakers and puts up a similar number, so on and so forth. So I do like looking at guys of the Jimmy Butler, of the Bam Adebayo ilk. I would probably rather play Bam Adebayo. Now, he's one of a few guys today that I have concern about, and I'm still overwhelmingly positive about. I have him ranked as an 8 in cash and a 9 in GPPs for comparison. Just the role in this offense, I expect to be significant this year. If Butler had been out and they started Dragic, I would be really concerned. If they get rid of Mo Harkless, one possibility is they could get rid of Mo Harkless from the starting lineup and start Dragic and attempt to have like Jimmy Butler guard Zion. It's not crazy. They've talked before about playing Jimmy Butler down at the 4 and just make the team that much more offensively lethal. That would also cause me to run and place a bet on the over for the game, because that would raise my projection for points scored by like 4. But again, we'll keep an eye out for that lineup. I'm sort of rambling here. Go ahead and talk about the Miami Heat for a little bit while I collect myself.
So I agree with you wholeheartedly on your Jimmy and Bam takes. I'm glad you brought up Goran Dragic, because he was kind of my third guy that I'm looking at from this team outside of those two in terms of the guys that we can really rely on. I think some good production today. I think it's a really good environment for him with the Pelicans, in that 7-man rotation, having Lonzo and Eric Bledsoe and, to a lesser extent, JJ Reddick, Josh Hart, just kind of these, guards, combo guards, smaller wings out there, where I just don't think Dragic should be in danger of losing any time unless he gets in foul trouble today. And 5,300 for a guy of that caliber, even off the bench. I mean, he's over a fantasy point per minute player. I think it's a decent environment, although I do think I've seen some hate out there. It might have even been you that posted it. Some people just talking about how the Pelicans defense is, a sieve, and you're just going to run through them and they're going to give up all kinds of fantasy points. And I think it's certainly
I specifically contravened that. Someone in chat earlier today, and someone wrote an article at FTN today, actually wrote an article saying that they want to target the Pelicans defense all year, and I said, bet me on that. They have worse defensive personnel than last year. I think they will be about 10 spots better defensively. I don't think they'll make the top half of the league. Based on what I've seen from one game in the preseason and listening to or reading every word Stan Van Gundy has said, I'm going to put them about 18th on the year. They're going to be markedly better. We'll see.
Okay.
But I expect them to be a much better defense. And I guess I might add, they played one game so far and kept the Raptors to 99 points. One game. Shitty example I can possibly think of, but certainly looked just fine there.
Right. Yeah. I don't think they're the team that you're going to look at. Oh, the Pelicans are on the slate. We're just going to, stack up against them all season. That's not how this is going to go. So yeah, outside of that, I gave my little Kelly O spiel a few minutes ago.
I think there's a chance Kelly O starts. If he starts and get that news 20 minutes before lock, then you can sort of put him into everything. You get that news 30, 40 minutes before lock, he's going to get pretty popular because all our Kelly O range punts are kind of crappy. We're looking at like Maxi Kleber and we're like, how you doing, Maxi? Like we're trying to make that feel good. So he'd get pretty owned if he got announced in any time in the near future. So it's kind of going to depend when. But right now I think he's perfectly, I think I have him as a 2 in cash. I expect him to play 20 minutes in the opener. At the 4 exclusively, I should add there. As we mentioned before, Precious exclusively, he and Bam Adebayo shared 48 minutes. So he exclusively backed up Bam. One of the members in the chat, I want to give him, I'm actually going to scroll up so I can grab the name so I can give him appropriate credit.
Sure.
had me revise and increase my ranking on Precious, based on the fact that it is historically on the run. It was. Has historically been a pretty difficult matchup for Adebayo against Steven Adams. I have 4 games in my notes. I don't know if they've played more, but I've watched 4 games between them, and my notes bear that out. And you would expect it to be, and that if he gets in foul trouble again, they shared 48 minutes last time, so maybe you get 24 minutes of Precious. And he was very productive in his very limited time. In the last game, he had, I think, 8 points and 3 rebounds in 12 minutes. So he banged out a point per minute or something. I don't think it's for a minimum play. I'm very interested in it if you need a 3K play. If you're looking for a potential slate buster that will fail 92% of the time, but maybe make you $1 million once in a while, I got no issue with you running Precious out there. I have a number of concerns. One being, I think it's most likely Bam plays 35 minutes. And 2, I still really like Bam for all the plus reasons, even though there's some negative reasons. And 3, they may just have to go beefier here. So Precious not playing and Myers Leonard going in wouldn't shock me. I don't think that's likely. I still think it's likely he plays 48 minus Bam minutes, but to appropriately contextualize that play. So there is that. More fantasy points, Zion or Bam. I have them within a point, I think, but let me pull it.
I just said I have Bam for half a fantasy point more, but I have more Zion ownership.
I believe I have, it's different site by site and where they're eligible to play. I have Bam for a quarter fantasy point more. Leading further credence to my projections don't freaking matter in NBA DFS, but that is a conversation for another day. Would you pivot to Dragic off of Bledsoe? I think that's an elite GPP pivot. I think it is probably my second favorite after Lonzo, simply because Lonzo, there's direct negative correlation there. Like if Bledsoe has a shit game and gets 5 fouls in 12 minutes, well, then all of a sudden Lonzo would be the one who would expect to see more time and usage and assists. And so there's a very obvious yin and yang there. But Dragic looked really good in the last game, very under the radar. I think scored 20 real points. He had like 20 and 7. Looked very good in the opener. And when he's well rested, like he's like me, he's got old man strength. When like he'll wear down. You know, but Spoelstra talks him up, talks about how great he is off the bench, and that's appropriate. He's really good. So mid-5s point guard who has a ceiling. It's not super Dragic day for me. We have 3 or 4 of those a year, and Butler being in really spoils. I think Butler being out, you would have seen massive amounts of Bam and Hero, and Dragic would have been the 3rd boosted guy. And I would have been like, you know what, I think you power slam Dragic here. I think would have been the one I landed on most heavily. As is, I still think he's a very strong GPP play. But I can't be nearly as excited as I would if Jimmy Buckets is out. Here is a small.
I mean, Miami certainly.
Here is a small forward.
Yeah. Yeah, he was on the
so after playing all of last year at shooting guard, basically the whole year, and now this year being the starting point guard. The better part of this is FanDuel decided it wasn't worth it to, change the prices, the entire mechanism by which this game runs. But we will take the time to go out of our way and make a massively incorrect adjustment to the positions. Well done. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I'm just saying. I give you a lot of credit when you get it right. That's huh? Okay. Moving on. We only have so much time. We're a half hour in, and we're basically one game in, so we will have to speed it up. I got a couple more pages of heat notes here. Anything else you want to say about Miami before we continue onwards?
No, let's move on. I'm sure we'll circle back when we get a lineup.
All right. We're in our intermission between game 1 and game 2. I'm only gonna do this one, maybe one more. But I had nice segues planned here between game 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4. Christmas based. And I wanted to say to everyone, almost all of you listening to me probably have someone in your life for a good reason or not a good reason who would love to hear from you today. You don't have to send a gift or a candygram or flowers, but if you close your eyes, you have a friend from college, parent, someone you haven't reached out to and sent a damn text message to yet that says, hey man, just want to let you know I was thinking about you. Takes you 10 seconds to put a smile on their face. You'll feel better about yourself. So make that happen today. It's Christmas, for God's sake. There you go, Zach. I mean, unless you cannot think of anyone in your life of whom you are in such moral arrears. If there is no one to whom you haven't reached out, then you're a better man than I am. And speaking of better men than I am, Zach, I'm going to let you take the first shot at this second game. Let's go ahead and talk about Golden State and Milwaukee.
Yeah, sure.
Our 2:30 contest, pick a team, pick a player, lead me to the promised land.
Yeah, we're gonna start with Milwaukee. Merry Christmas, Hobby, by the way, in the chat. We'll start up top with Giannis, the highest priced guy on DraftKings, and I believe on FanDuel as well. I love him today, and I thought you made a great point in our Discord chat earlier that Giannis is highly correlated with the star across the ball, Steph Curry. I think that if you think this game is going to stay close, then I think it's a good idea to stack those two guys together.
Yes.
And
I want to play both or neither, kind of. That's a little bit of in one lineup or two lineups or whatever.
Yep.
Those guys should demolish their prices if this game plays 4 quarters. And we'll talk in a little bit about Giannis and minutes and whether or not you're going to get 28 a la 2019 or 38 a la 2020 minutes out of Giannis, which obviously matters a lot. But both those guys should demolish their prices in the event this game plays 4 quarters and they get full minutes. So correlate that way. And as another adjunct, I'm sorry for interrupting you, and I'll hand it back in just a second. But as another adjunct, I don't think they correlate quite as brilliantly with Jameis Wiseman. Now, on DK, he's priced pretty highly anyway, and I have a little trouble getting there. But a large part of his production and some of his minutes came in blowout time. So I'm a little more inclined to have my exposure to him in my non-Steph, non-Giannis lineups. For a couple reasons, I'm fine getting there. He looked really good. There's going to be lots of Giannis and Brook Lopez running around, and those are incredibly difficult things for a rookie to deal with. And I worry that it's being oversold a little bit anyway for a kid at his age. But additionally, I really want that game to blow out because he'll play in the blowout and he's going to do a lot in the blowout. So he correlates really negatively with Steph, who wants the opposite, and really negatively with Giannis for me. I'm not saying you can't play all three, but in one lineup, I'm a fan of these two or this one. And then limiting your exposure in which they mix in converse ways. Your Giannis is better with Steph. Your Steph is better with Giannis. They're worth more than they are independently. With that, I will hand it back to you.
Yeah, sure. I completely agree. I did notice though, you've got this thing with Mr. Wiseman. Are you a Jameis Winston fan?
Do I do it wrong?
Oh, you say Jameis. I think I've heard you 8 out of 10 times since we started the preseason. Obviously, we didn't talk about him that much.
I think I just love crab legs. I think that's it.
So getting back to Milwaukee, I have more interest today. Yes, I like Giannis. Obviously, projects really highly, but I have more shares of Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday from the Bucks on DraftKings than Giannis. Just kind of to get a part of that game. I mean, I think we saw those guys. I'm pull up the box score here, but those 3 guys were essentially the entire offense, as they will be for most of the year. You know, you've alluded to how you are not a fan of what they did in the offseason overall in terms of their depth now. But you saw 26 shots for Giannis, 20 for Middleton, 16 for Drew, but they all played 36 plus minutes. And so, I mean, if you're getting Middleton for 3,500 less, playing at least the same, maybe a minute or two more than Giannis, and putting up 20 shots, I like Chris Middleton a lot today. I think 7,400 is a really nice price. And if you think the game blows out, it's going to be most likely those 3 guys doing it. And so then, if another play, our guy Steph in the chat wants me to talk dirty about Bobby Portis.
Go ahead.
Bobby Portis, not a stranger to getting dirty on the court, even with his own teammates. So we hope that doesn't happen today. But I think he's a guy too. Even if you think the game stays close, I think he's in play at 4,300. He's a good fantasy producer. And I have him for 18 minutes. I think that number could tick up a little bit in the blowout. I would think he would get some blowout run. But certainly an okay GPP play today. What's your take on Dante DiVincenzo? Because we've got DJ Augustine probable right now.
Right.
And I think he's a guy that loses a couple minutes. Those minutes are going to come from a few places. If DJ Augustine comes back.
I don't know exactly where they'll come from. My guess is they come most largely from, it's actually going to be almost an even 3-way split between Drew Holiday Dante DiVincenzo and Pat Connaughton. I think those lose some time off the bench. But roughly the same number of minutes, which obviously ends up being a much more proportional amount of Pat Connaughton's value and causes him to be pretty lowly ranked. But that's really the only reason that I'm not sold on these minutes. So again, for a couple of years now, we've had Budenholzer giving the Bucks starters and all stars, of which he's got a few now, well fewer minutes than we expected him to do, to the consternation of many a fantasy sports player. And in their opener, obviously 36, 38 minutes for Middleton and Giannis and Holiday. That's incredibly exciting stuff. Now, Augustine being back does bring that down a little bit. And I put some quotes in the chat before that I sourced from Budenholzer, who was discussing that. I don't see them anymore, but who was discussing, basically, he said that we don't want to play them that many minutes, but we'll see how it goes. So I think he does scroll it back a little bit. That's too much. I think it will be well more than last year. And the reason isn't really he's trying to play them more. It's his bench turned into poop. Like they had a really good 12 deep team last year. You and I had this conversation once already. We don't have to do it again. I said they have like 6 NBA players on the team. You're like 9. They have Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis. And it's like, well, okay. Like they're in the NBA. No, I know. But here's the thing. They want to play their starters and DJ. That's fine. But like they don't want to play Bobby Portis 1 second in the postseason. No team wants to play Bobby Portis 1 second in a postseason series. He's one of a number of players today who are not good enough defensively to be on the court in the postseason. They will get NS cantered right the hell out of there. So they're really, really thin. And against teams, especially that, operate a decent switch and can get guys the ball who they want to get the ball, if you put Bobby Portis out there against, Steph, get bloody in a hurry, I guess is my idea. So I like Bobby Portis just fine. I have him for 16 minutes. He can score 28 fantasy points in 16 minutes and be very cheap. Pretty poopy in cash, but absolutely reasonable as a GPP play with a significant upside. It isn't going to be owned enough. So I legit like him in tournaments. Chris Middleton was going into that last game, one of the most interesting mathematical singularities, in which someone said, "What do you have him projected for?" I'm like, "That's easy, 40." And the reason that's funny if you're a math nerd like me is over the last 2 years, ignoring the last game here, Chris Middleton had played the Celtics 9 times and 1 time scored 29 fantasy points, and the other 8 scored between 38 and 41. It was the most consistent thing in the world. It was like, Chris Middleton, this many minutes, this many fantasy points. It's literally like 38, 38 and a half, 39, 39 and a half, 40, 40 and a quarter, 41 or something. It was pretty crazy. Now, he also was playing fewer minutes. Now he went out and played whatever it was, 38 minutes and got 58 fantasy points. I like him less than Jaylen Brown, and I'm a big fan of playing Giannis. And I like Chris Middleton less when I have Giannis. So for those reasons, I think my degree of exposure to Chris Middleton would be less than it would be in a vacuum, just judging Chris Middleton on his own merits. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like Chris Middleton as a play. I really like playing Jaylen Brown, who is cheaper, a little bit more, and fills some of the same positionality, depending what site we're talking about. And I really like playing Giannis, ergo and also I've indicated in the same lineups, I'm also now trying to play Steph. So I've told you I'm playing Jaylen Brown, Steph, and Giannis, and so I really can't play Chris Middleton. I've used all my money, and the positionality makes it really, really difficult. For that reason, because of my other priorities, and that is a part of this whole, you can't, a common mistake in the heuristics, the thought process of DFS is trying to pick the best players instead of build the best lineup. For that reason, I think I end up with less Chris Middleton than it deserves. So I'm guessing you have something like, I'll say 40 to 50% Chris Middleton in your lineups right now. Whereas I think I would end up closer to a quarter or so, not because I don't think he should be owned more than that. But how much Chris Middleton do you have in the holster right now?
30%.
30%. Okay. So that's still going to be over the field. You're still holding solid there. That's fine. You're still making a stand over the field, but not as much as I thought. You see a birthday balloon behind me. Yes, I just got older not that long ago, so I still have I will twist my Superman birthday balloon to my Star Wars balloon.
There you go.
I have a whole other shelf to set up and put Snape on here and other stuff, but I haven't built the other. I got 2 other jobs, and then this thing takes like 8 hours a day for the first few weeks of the NBA season. So I've had like no free time. People who are in the Discord will see me in here up until 10, 11, 1, 2, and then I'm up at 6 talking about basketball again. So at some point, I will get that in there. We got to stay on task.
Happy belated, Eddie. Happy belated.
Thanks very much. At my age, we don't celebrate. I'm becoming the grumpy old man who's like, my age, we talk about it. It's rude. So who else do we want to talk about? I do think Brook Lopez, I would rather go to than Steven Adams in a tournament. I think he's lower owned than Steven Adams. They're basically the same price. He's really good. And, this, again, is an opposing team that really isn't going to stop anyone. So I think all the ceiling is there, and just he's going to be maybe the 4th highest owned option on his team, maybe 5th. Maybe the lowest owned of those starters. So, this is a team we want to get some. This Golden State's going to be the worst defense in the NBA this year, pretty markedly. And they're going to be pretty crappy at rebounding too, which again, when you're a 7-foot center, Brook Lopez occasionally anemic to grabbing rebounds. But, it just adds more to his upside and Giannis's upside. I have Giannis for very close to 70 fantasy points if this game stays close. He projects for me at 67 and some change, which is an absurd figure if they play 4 quarters. Full stop. So we will get to some questions in a second. Let's keep moving on. Let's look across the ball here because we didn't really talk about the Warriors as much as I wanted to. When asked if Eric Pascal was going to start again on Christmas, Steve Kerr said, quote, "Everything is fluid right now. Everything is a possibility." That is not confidence inspiring if you're Eric Pascal. Eric Pascal fits right into that Bobby Portis conversation, by the way. He is not a good defender. He didn't get yanked for foul trouble. He got yanked for getting schooled on the defensive end of the court. Only got 22 minutes. Now, nobody's going to want to play this guy. His price went up, both sites, I believe. I don't know if it went up on FanDuel. They don't believe in changing prices. But on DraftKings, his price certainly went up. He played 22 minutes, scored only 10 fantasy points, was dreadful. He's looking at a nightmarish matchup. Putting him out there and trying to guard Giannis is not, that's, again, snuff film is the saying I tend to use. That could get ugly in a hurry. He's legit bad defensively. He's like the 13th best defender on that team. Again, he didn't start the second half of their opener against Brooklyn. They put Juan Toscano-Anderson, who they had waived in their overhead to start the second half. They could go big. We'll keep an eye on this lineup. Again, only second game there. So there might be some opportunity to take some advantage there. But the other possibility is, and I'm not kidding here, Steve Kerr is a pretty smart guy. And it would not shock me if he went, you know what? I can't guard them no matter what. So I'm just going to play the team that can actually get some buckets. If I put out Wiseman and Pascal and Oubre and Wiggins and stuff, I just try to outshoot him. I can't stop him regardless. There's nothing I can do. I'm not even going to try. He'll try. And he commented extensively about trying to stop Giannis, about like, look, we just try to wall off areas of the court. You cannot let him going downhill towards the basket. So I'm just telling the guys to, stand their arms akimbo and take one for the team. So I'm not shocked, I guess is my point, if Pascal starts again. But we'll react to that lineup when it comes out. Steph, again, whatever it was, 21 shots in 30 minutes, I want to say, was still perfectly good, even though he got limited time in the blowout. Is going to be quite fresh after the rest. There is all the upside in the world. The usage he is getting right now, sans Clay, sans Draymond, sans Durant, depending on how far back you want to go, is incredibly legitimate. I'm a huge fan of his. Again, he correlates extremely well with Giannis and Middleton and anyone else on the other team playing 4 quarters. Stacking this game makes a lot of sense. I don't think I put James Wiseman in that stack. Full stop. Okay, so that's about it until we get to the lineup. I will say, oh boy, this is going to be good. Andrew Wiggins took 16 shots. Now, he only made 4 of them, but guy took 16 shots. And you cannot ask me to be full, 12 noon erection over Steph's 21 and be like, Wiggins is the worst player ever. Like, he's not good. But he's better than that. I would play Wiggins over Oubre in a tournament for ownership.
Okay.
Nobody gonna own Guy. And I don't like the matchup particularly. I don't like much about it at all, except for the fact that he's a guy who can score 40 fantasy points, is going to be 3% owned because nobody wants to walk into that again. I would probably rather go there. I like Oubre a lot too. I would rather play Oubre in cash. I think I have them ranked that way. I have Wiggins as a higher tournament play and Oubre as a better cash play. Neither of them are real priorities in cash, so for that reason, I would go there. Anything else you want to say about the Warriors before we move on?
No, I think you hit it. I had Oubre, Wiggins, and Pascal down as pretty good. I think above average GPP plays, I would say today, especially since Pascal. Who's going to go back to him today? Right. After he was such chalk on opening night and just busted.
And again, I want to give the complete story of what we're talking about here. He's gotten a lot of time in the past. Like when Draymond is out, he's started and played 35 minutes and scored 40 odd fantasy points before. Like they have gone to him. At length in the past. So him not playing, the thing that I think hurts me the most in my appraisal of him today is that he did not even play in that blowout. That was like, they didn't even put him back out there for that. So that was disturbing. So we will wait to see that lineup as well. I love Miami waiting on this lineup so much for let's go on to game number 3. Would you like to give any sort of pontificating moral message to everybody watching this right now? It's great because what's nice is you get messages from people on Twitter for like a week, like, who the hell do you think you are, you Ponzi bitch? Which is nice that people, hear your words and you provoke a response. So if you would like to yield your moral authority that all DFS experts have, feel free.
Wait, I'm confused. You confused me right there.
Perfect.
Moral authority on what?
I was making that's the funny. We don't actually have moral authority. See, between the last 2 games, I said, hey,
gotcha.
call someone who might miss you. Be a mensch. Be a good guy. And I thought you might like to take a crack at moral superiority. This is America. We believe in moral superiority.
No.
Over each other, mostly, but.
No, I compared you to Jesus earlier in the chat, so I'm not going to try to get on top there.
Well, that'll go well. Thanks. I appreciate that look. I have a little trouble living up to that one, but all right, let's move on to Crooklyn at Boston.
Let's talk Durant.
Pop quiz. Kyrie Irving has played a regular season game against 29 out of 30 NBA teams in the last 3 years. Which team has he not faced in a regular season game?
I believe that would be the Celtics.
God damn, you're clever. All right, go ahead.
So Kyrie, I think, is a fine play. 8,900. He's probably a little bit too cheap for the upside that he has here. And obviously we're not going to trumpet revenge narratives every day. But I think he's supremely motivated to go put on a good performance between going back to play the Celtics in the Garden, which he has already cleansed. I assume he will cleanse the Garden again today.
He already to quote Kevin Durant, I've got my game quotes here. I've got about 20. My favorite one is Kevin Durant on Kyrie saging the arena. That's his thing. Kyrie probably sages his room at home before he plays 2K. I enjoyed that one, KD bringing the funny. That was a good one there. I do want to say, by the way, as much as I like being a moral hypocrite, I believe many people, including myself, applied a bit of a double standard here. So he's using actually like a Native American ritual. And he talks about getting good energy and cleansing. And my first thought was, what an idiot. Like my first thought was just like, and the world is flat and I'm going to thank, my teammates, but not the ones who are actually playing. And that like,
right.
The part of me went, Phil Jackson was all up into that shit. Phil Jackson was all, if you saw The Last Dance or just follow Phil Jackson, it was just like, I've got an eagle feather up my butt and we're all going to smoke some peyote and write down our memories and perform the ancient Cherokee ritual of it. He was all up in that crap. and because, the guy, got like 11 NBA titles and, is an old white dude. We're like, oh, he's eccentric, but so great. When Kyrie does it, we're like, fuck out of here, you.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, on some level, he's getting like judged for past.
Yeah.
If you walked out there and you saw Phil Jackson saging an arena, you'd be like, guy's high. Right
that Phil. Yeah.
I'm just saying, if I'm trying to be fair in my own prejudices, I try to check myself before I wreck myself, because shotgun bullets are bad for my health.
Indeed.
I don't know if you knew that. Okay, so
I've heard.
Okay, I will lead you back to saging and KD and KI and anything else.
Yeah, so I'll take 10 seconds and just say, the Earth is flat stuff is one conversation, the saging is another. I'm still bothered by him not showing up to the game 7 when he was injured a few years back, when he was still on the Celtics. That was the thing that
I'm bothered by him thanking all the players on the Nets who weren't starting with him. He's like, we're going to be good next year. We need some more help. Me and KD and DeAndre Jordan need some help. And it was like, okay, you just started 50 games next to Joe Harris and Taurean Prince, and you didn't mention them, and that's not cool. So.
Yeah, and guess what? You're going to need those dudes this year. Kyrie, a fine play on both sides, but I love Kevin Durant today.
Yeah.
He's too cheap. But we talked about the FanDuel price, 8,500 there is ridiculous, but 9,400 is too cheap. This is not Warriors Durant. He's obviously, got Kyrie there, is going to take up a lot of usage as well, but I see a lot of places, I think, projecting Durant just way too low today for the rates that I think he's going to have, that we've seen through the preseason and in the first regular season.
We saw it in the preseason against the Celtics, starting basically the teams they're going to start today. They started in the preseason game against the Celtics. They're going to start. The Nets are starting the exact same team.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics in that game started Tice and Javonte Green, if I remember correctly, at the 4 and the 5, which is going to be probably neither of them. It's going to be Tristan Thompson and maybe Tice, maybe Semi Ojeleye. Maybe there's a couple different ways they can go there. That's another lineup that's in flux, but it's not really actionable because whoever they start, they're going to get dick minutes. They're going to give time to Tatum and Smart and Brown. But the starters played normal rotations through 3 quarters in that game. Like all the guys of relevance we're talking about here played 25, 26, 28 minutes in that game. And both Kyrie and Durant looked great. Finding where the hell is it? Box score in that game. Durant played 27 minutes in 3 quarters, had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks. So without the stocks, he had 36 in 27 minutes. And with the stuff, because you can set that aside because that's not his bread and butter. Not that he's not an extremely good defender. But with the stocks, he got, well into the 40s in that game. In the opener against the Warriors, they blew them out. So he only played 25 minutes, shot poorly. Shot 7 of 16 from the field and had 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block. So again, without the stocks, had about 35 in 25 minutes, so 1.4 fantasy points a minute. And, with the stocks, got well into the 40s again. So I'm looking for the evidence that this is not a good play or is not going to work out. They dominated the shots on that team. In the Warriors game, both he and Kyrie took exactly 16 shots. Both of them were extremely good. I don't think it weights quite that heavily. Dinwiddie only took 6. I think that number probably comes up. But I like KD quite a bit, and I like KD a touch more than I like Kyrie, even at price, just because they have more good answers to KD. And they have some to Irving rather.
To Kyrie.
Yeah, to Kyrie. They have some outs. Tatum hasn't played him, obviously since Warriors time, and they played 3 or 4 games against each other. And I remember Tatum did an admirable job. So okay, I'm not. It's not slam dunk spot for me. Ended up as a 9 in GPPs for me, not a 10, for example. But I do think he is very under projected. And as much as it is a boon for Karis Levert, who we're going to talk about in a second, how they are running this rotation, it is also a boon for Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant to not be competing with Karis Levert.
Sure.
Spoiling this a little bit here, Karis Levert, they did not stagger Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant almost at all.
I was surprised by that.
Or the preseason. Literally, they both came in, played 9 minutes, both checked out. Karis Levert was in, went apeshit nuts for 6-7 minutes. Then the 2 of them checked back in, played together. So I think it's a terrible idea. I can't defend it. I don't think it's the way this team should play to win, but I also don't think Steve Nash is running this team. I think Kyrie and Durant. I don't think he has.
But they're running.
I don't want to disrespect Steve Nash. I like Steve Nash. I do not think Steve Nash has as much control over his locker room as most other NBA coaches right now. So I think if Kyrie and KD decide, hey, we want to spend our time on the court together, I think that happens. By hook or by crook or by force or by whatever, I think that happens. So, don't know.
They're running two different teams essentially. Like they're the five coming off the bench were basically running together. Then the starters came back in, and then they did the same thing in the second half until the blowout.
Yeah. So they have Levert and Shamet and Jared Allen and Taurean Prince and Jeff Green are the second team, basically, and the other five guys are the first team. And then, by the way, in a blowout, they bring in the third team and did bring in the third team. So that's relevant if you're non-stacking this game and you avoid all these guys and you're looking for bench players on the Nets or something. They brought in 4 or 5 extra players. I don't remember if they ran 14 or 15 deep, but they brought in 4 or 5 extra players. I think it was just 4. No, it would have been 5 because Perry came in. Anyway, but they have a third blowout team, so you can't like run the bench guys with the hope of a blowout. Those things don't correlate. Sure. So I have Karis Levert as like a 6 in cash and an 8 or a 9 in GPPs. I can't recall which offhand, and I don't want to take the time to go back there and look. He is, again, woefully underpriced on FanDuel. Feel free to get all of that you can. On DK, he's very much in play. And doesn't negatively correlate as much with Kyrie and KD as you would think he does, because of the fact that they are playing at as much different times as they can. Like they are as staggered from each other, those two teams, as you can stagger in our 1 game sample size. So I have some worries in cash. He's not going to be that productive. He got 25 minutes. That might even, like, it's not going to be much more than that. The price is still significant on DK, where I think he's 7,200. He can have a perfectly good game and put up 31, just fine in 25 minutes. It's 1.2, 1.3 fantasy points a minute. That's fine work, and that still doesn't pay off that nut. So I would be a little hesitant there. But rotation is a real boon if you are trying to get back to Karis Levert. FanDuel, go right ahead at that price. DK. You're asking all the trouble, but the usage is there. He is the highest usage player on the team because of how much he runs that second unit.
I mean, I just don't. I can't get there 7,200. Especially when he had the bigger game in game 1. I just think I can't get there. But
Myers Leonard starting. I almost got it. I really thought they'd go fat. So Myers Leonard is getting the start. We are 31 minutes from lock. Let me confirm he's the minimum everywhere. Let me do some historical diving and pull up my notes.
3,400 on DraftKings.
Is it 34? Saucy of them.
He's
not
power
to
forward. He's power forward eligible.
He's out of the rotation. Oh, I would hope he's power forward eligible. Is he also center eligible?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
less than Kleber.
Right. The question is the ownership on Kleber. This is right in the range where I was like 20 minutes or less, I'm excited. 20 to 40 minutes out, I have a feeling I'm largely ambivalent. But what I mean by that is you want some, but the field will also want some. Everybody wants some. I'm going to go look and work on getting a projection for Myers Leonard real quick. Why don't you talk a little more, while I do that, why don't you talk a little more about the Celtics and the Nets, and then we'll double back.
Yeah, so we can flip over to the Boston side, and I think we got to start with Jeff Teague today. I think he's going to be the chalk, and that's chalk that I'm eating today. 4,200, even off the bench for this team. Do you know he hasn't missed a 3 yet in a Celtics uniform?
I did
5 for 5 in the preseason, and I believe 4 for 4 in the opener. So certainly that will regress for Mr. Teague, because he's not going to shoot close to 100% on the year. But I mean, he's getting a lot of opportunity on this team, even off the bench. 25 minutes against the Bucks, 15 shots. So and he did contribute. I mean, 3 boards, 4 assists, 3 stocks. I don't think we're going to see that kind of peripheral production from him today. But he could get close, and just for me, it's 4,200. he's the strongest play for me, really under 5K on the entire slate on DraftKings. So more priced up over on FanDuel. I believe he's like 5'8" or something to that effect.
It's a number
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. So I'm
for me to
fine with
guess
any amount of Jeff.
Yeah, it's tough for me to guess his ownership there.
Yeah.
Like there is a point at which you still want him. Like I don't know what his ownership would have to be for me to want him on FanDuel. It would probably be 4 or 5%. Is about the point of equanimity where he should be owned relative to that price and opportunity. And matchup is good. It's a game we're trying to stack a piece of. Could start, could get more time. Like there's upside there, but I wouldn't want a ton there. But on DK, hard to get away. Still on Kelly O with Leonard starting. No, I do think you should consider revising some of your Kelly O exposure because there is a chance that this really negatively affects him. Because like Kelly O played exclusively at the 4. Mm-hmm. Last rotation was Adebayo and Precious at the 5. If they put Harkless in to back up Myers Leonard, Kelly O does not play, and we've seen him completely yanked from the rotation before. So I'd be very careful if I were you. Not out of play, but you have to understand that I'd say he's roughly 50-50 not to see the court. I would put it about the odds right now.
50-50 not to see the court.
Kelly Olynyk?
Yeah, I don't think that at all. I would be shocked if he didn't play today.
Why?
I think they're going to need his mass out there to deal with Zion and Funaki and
they can put Myers Leonard out there to deal with the Jackson Hayes, Nikola Melius of the world, in theory, or they can put Mo Harkless out there to deal with the backups. I'm not maybe 50-50 is a bit much, but I'm not going under 40-60. Like all it takes is they put Myers Leonard in as the second power forward. Butler is in, so they're not going to get thin at guard. They're not going to run, whatever more small. Those minutes aren't going to appear anyway. They've even talked about playing Jimmy Butler 4, so like there's some chance he doesn't play. Maybe 50-50 is too much, but there's at least a 25.
That's way too much. I mean, he played like every game last year. Played 84, including the playoffs, and that was the shortened regular season. So maybe he
would have missed
4 or 5 games.
Probably a little more.
I don't.
They played 72 regular season games, and they played. I'm remembering their series total right.
A lot.
24 postseason games. So that means,
he's that
like, I don't know if he was injured. Like he was out of some of the postseason too. But anyhow, maybe I'm too hot. But regardless, they decided they wanted the beef, and they're getting the hammer, Myers Leonard, the best Call of Duty player in the NBA. And they're today. Pelicans will start who we thought they would. Thank you very much. Myers Leonard will play 8 minutes in the first and then sit the rest of the game with another 8 minutes to begin the second half. That's how they played him all last year. I don't believe that to be correct. I believe he averaged something like 20 minutes as a starter, but
he was 19.5 on the year. So 20 minutes as a starter would make sense.
Yeah, it's that to my understanding is too low.
Yeah.
And again, he's being put in for the matchup specifically. So my projection, I'm not quite final on it, but we're running out of time. Myers Leonard and I did have a tiff on Twitter. I made a joke.
I did not know this.
Ability to take a Call of Duty screenshot, and he's like, "All right, Chief," and like took a shot at me. I'm like, "Dude, I'm a fan," but all right, whatever. Like, it was a good. I had Josh Molina respond to me on Twitter yesterday. So really, all the celebrities are trying to get slide on into my DM. I like Myers Leonard. His wife is a better basketball player than he is. Can I say that? Is that okay? Is that woke? Anyway. So I have him right now at 21 minutes and about 16 and a half fantasy points. I'm fine with that. For reference, that is slightly lower still than my projections for Maxi Kleber. So I'm largely ambivalent. Like I said, Maxi Kleber, I believe, will hold on to being higher owned.
Sure.
Is LeBron going to D up Luka? No. Luka's going to get D'd up by a lot of Schroeder and a lot of KCP and maybe a little bit of Wes Matthews and a little bit of LeBron, but that will not be his primary milieu in this game. Or at least I would be surprised given everything we know. Myers Leonard would get smoked by you in Warzone. You'd get smoked by me in Warzone. You don't want any of this. So Myers Leonard, DraftKings points as a starter. last year. 21.1 minutes per game started. He started 49 games in that season. 21.1 as a starter, 20.3 on the whole. So does Leonard hurt Bam? Yes. Not to the degree that it would change. Like it would if my value of Bam previously was X, it would now be 0.995X or something. But yes, Myers Leonard, it will take a couple rebounds away and take a couple more shots than say Mo Harkless. So yes, I do think this change would be considered a fairly minor, maybe 1%, 0.99. Would be probably a fairly minor tickle away from Bam Adebayo. That's
Sure.
reasonable to say. It's not like Myers had been backing him up. Yeah, and he's a little slower to get out on the break, so it brings the pace down a little. But yeah, I would think that's right.
Yeah.
What
Let's finish up
what would my cash ranking be for Myers Leonard? Probably 8. I think I'd have for Myers Leonard as an 8-8 or something like that. I'm a pretty big fan of the play. I think I had Maxi Kleber as like an 8-8 or a 9-8. So we're in that same ballpark. Again, don't overreact, but get some exposure to Myers Leonard. I think is the appropriate way to go. It's not like I had Mason Plumlee as a 10-10 on opening day. It's not bad for value base. But okay, let's keep moving on because we're obviously running out of time. Celtics, you and I are both over the moon about Jaylen Brown. I can talk about this for about 10 minutes, but there is all kinds of usage open on this team. He has a slightly better way of it than Tatum to me. I think there's a chance that the Celtics start someone with an even lower usage, but Kemba was the second highest usage guy on this team. He's gone. Hayward was the 4th highest usage guy on this team after Brown. He's gone. If you looked at that first game of the season, I don't remember, but it was glorious. I think 13 of 24 for Brown and something of 28 for Tatum. I like both those plays quite a bit, but it's 7K especially. It is hard for me to get past the usage and the time I expect to see out of Jaylen Brown in this game. I will stop there rather than talking for 2 more minutes. Talk to me about Celtics.
Love Jaylen Brown for all the reasons you mentioned. 24 shot attempts in that opener on Wednesday. I think you can play Jason Tatum in any GPP. I'm not getting there today. I'd rather spend 100 more on the other side of the ball and get Durant 100% of the time.
And now that has a lot to do with having significant exposure to Brown, who I do think is very well owned here. So I do think for that reason, the guys you're going to focus it on the team are Brown and Tatum. So if you're not playing Brown in a given lineup, Tatum does get a fair bit of appeal for me, especially if you're playing like Durant or Kyrie. You're already spending up across the ball. So for that reason, I would be less dismissive than you are of Tatum, where it sounds like you have none or very, very little. I would get to an appreciable amount simply because I would have significant amounts of Durant. Obviously, first off, we talked about and Kyrie, and I wouldn't want to play 100% Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, it's just DK. I have so much Jaylen Brown and Jeff Teague that I'm not getting to Tatum, especially with my Durant interest. But that's really all I got. I'm interested to see how it develops the front court rotation between Tice, Thompson, Time Lord, just kind of as the season goes on. Because normally $5,200 Tristan Thompson I would like a lot, but just kind of not with what they did last game.
Also, he's not 100%.
Yeah, he's a hamstring.
He had a calf or hammy. No.
Yeah.
He had a significant leg strain that they're going to bring him back kind of slow from. So, like, if Daniel Tice was struck by lightning, I still don't think he plays 35 minutes tonight or something. Like, they're going to mix in Grant Williams, Bob Williams, Tice, whatever the hell, to keep him from a reasonable level. So he's not out of play. I ranked him, but for that reason, the ceiling is sort of off Tristan Thompson. Not to mention some pretty bad rebounding matchups. I got some notes here about drives for game and touches and all kinds of other stuff that we are just going to skip out on here for time concerns. And if you're keeping track at home, this will be 684 shows in a row in which I will not read close to half my lineups. Let's go ahead and talk about, by my lineups, I mean my notes. Let's go ahead and talk about Dallas visiting your world champion, recently put in the woodshed, Los Angeles Lakers. No Kristaps, obviously, for Dallas. No Anthony Davis and LeBron, both probable for the Lakers. Go ahead. We'll cede the floor to you, the younger and stronger man by far. Pick a team and a player. Let's talk.
Yeah, I think Maxi Kleber is maybe the most hot button guy from this game. 3,500 power forward center eligible, on DraftKings, really out of play on FanDuel, priced up over 5K there. I've got him for 26 minutes, 19.5 fantasy points.
Who are we talking about?
Kleber.
That's almost exactly what I have for a projection.
Yeah, it's not a good matchup for him, but I do think that he gets, mid to high 20s minutes, as I said, and 3,500 on the slate. You're, outside of your Myers Leonard, your Jeff Teague. I'm not sure you're going to find a better, kind of bargain basement value option today. So I think I
prefer Myers Leonard. It is close for me in cash because of the extra minutes for Kleber. Sure. And Kleber is going to shoot threes. He took, I want to say 7 threes in the opener and made 2 of them. That does even out the floor a little bit. It is worth pointing out here that Myers Leonard is going to play center. A couple people were sending messages, but I didn't make that clear. Myers Leonard will play center and guard Steven Adams. That should be made clear. Bam Adebayo will go out and deal with Zion, and that's a negative for Zion. We'll probably even tick my ranking for him down a hair and leave my ranking for Ingram where it is at, because that is markedly more difficult for him than just about anything else that was going to happen. So that should be said, and that's nice for Myers Leonard, is finding a low end double, just grabbing rebounds. So please continue.
So looking up at the top, Luka, there's rarely going to be a slate this year where he's on it where I'm not a huge fan. The price is a bit prohibitive today with just some of the other guys I'm spending up for, the Durants. I like Anthony Davis a lot on the other side of this game. But I have about 20% Luka right now, which will probably be right around where the field is, maybe a little higher.
I think the field's going to do, if I had to round right now, 20 Luka, 40 Giannis.
Yeah.
And I think that's about right. You could argue more Luka. So I could talk for 15 more seconds. I'm going to push a 5th version of the ranks in, and then I'll take some.
Yeah, so we can circle back to Luka. I'll just touch on, I do think Josh Richardson is a pretty decent play today, 5,400. I believe guard forward eligible on DK. And just gonna have a pretty significant role here in this Mavs offense. 500 more. Tim Hardaway Jr. His minutes got cut a little bit last game. I would expect 30 to 32 probably.
I have
with room for a few more.
I have him at 34. He just lost his 4th quarter to Jalen Brunson playing well. That's just what happened. Carlisle came out and said Jalen Brunson was playing well, so I left him in there. That's what happened. I don't think Tim Hardaway Jr. at his salary, at his role, at his whatever ends up with that happening again. I think he gets into the mid 30s again today. I still prefer Jay Rich because they're both going to be very low owned. But Tim will be even lower owned. But I like getting some exposure to both those guys in any lineup that doesn't have Luka in it, which again is a lot of your lineups. Like those are guys you can look to get some of that scoring in.
Yeah, I also think 4,800 Dorian Finney-Smith has been playing well dating back to the postseason last year, and probably a guy who's going to go supremely underowned. I like Paul Millsap, which we'll get into in a bit. Decent pivot off of him.
Yep, nothing there I disagree with. So there's lots of reasons to not like Luka. There's literally 5 reasons not to like Luka, and my moral of the story is going to be that I still really, really like Luka. But Lakers are a bad matchup. KCP individually is a bad matchup. Schroeder individually is a bad matchup. LeBron is individually a bad matchup. If you look at his production, his points per minute, his history, the video, anything, you'll see that these are guys who do a good job on him, and they tend to double him up and make his life kind of difficult. And for that reason, this is a worse than average matchup for him. All of last year, the Lakers as a defensive squad were underrated. There were lots of people saying, oh, don't play those guys against this team. But against the Lakers, people didn't give them their due respect. They were a team I really avoided. And I still don't care. In a vacuum, he should cost, I'll go with 12,400. And against this Lakers team, he should cost, 11,800. I still have him projected for a touch over 60. He was dreadful last game. Started off 0 for 8, no steals, no blocks, and he still put up 50, whatever the hell fantasy points, and 32 and whatever he had, 32, 11, and 8, or whatever the hell line he ended up with in that game. He's amazing. And it's just, there's no Kristaps there, and he's the only show in town. And just the math defeats all that other crap I said. Like, those all knock him down by 2% here, 3% here, 2% here, 3%. Or you add all that up, it knocks his projection off by 8, 10, 12%, which is a really relevant amount, and he's still really, really underpriced. So because I love Giannis, and because I love some other high-priced guys, and because Giannis correlates so well with Steph, it'd be tough for me to get as much as I want. But yeah, if Luka goes out and plays an average game, he's going to get 60 fantasy points today. So, you should have a lot of appeal for that. Other guys on this team, I think we're in lockstep. Jay Rich a little safer. Dorian Finney-Smith still at DFS. It's in his name. 4,800. I talked him up a lot before the first game. Did well. Same thing here again. He's going to play 34, 35 minutes. They need him out there in this matchup playing defense. So his time is very secure. Very decent cash play. Let's look across the ball and talk about the Lake Show.
Yeah. My favorite here, at least with my ownership, is going to be Trez Harrell at 6K. I still don't, let me just double check so I'm not throwing out some lies here, but yeah, I have 20% Harrell. I have more Anthony Davis now. I'm up to 25% Anthony Davis. I prefer him to LeBron, and I feel bad saying that on Christmas because historically, unless LeBron was getting blown out when he was on a terrible Cleveland team, he's been great on Christmas. I do think he's going to play around 32 minutes today.
Anthony Davis, LeBron James.
LeBron, 32 minutes.
Okay.
But I was saying LeBron historically on Christmas shows out. Even in that game where he got hurt a couple years ago, he was already had a pretty good score when he went out.
Well, he's hurt
now.
But
I prefer LeBron.
He rolled an ankle.
He rolled
an ankle in the Clipper game.
I do see that hindering him today when he's on the court.
I don't know, but it's not a 0% chance. I'm just saying he's I don't think he's 100%. They were already sort of like I have LeBron as a 7 in cash, where I just think that's an incorrect exposure because he rolled an ankle and they've already stated they're going to limit his minutes, and there are superlative spend ups in Durant, Anthony Davis, Steph, Giannis, Luka. Like there's a lot of other places to go. Doesn't seem like a smart cash play. Why pick the guy who might only play 27 minutes? Because whatever, that seems wrong. I have him as a 9 in GPPs. I think he could certainly get there. I doubt it limits him today. Again, that game was opening day of the season, so 3 days ago. It's Tuesday, not Wednesday. He's probably fine. But
sure,
he was probable with the ankle. He is probable with the ankle. There's a non-zero chance he hits. Like he's on the injury report. Maybe they sit him. I'd be shocked if that happened. But anyhow, I hedge off when you say you like Anthony Davis a little more than LeBron. That feels bad because Christmas. I have less concern with Christmas and this, that, and the other thing. Now I will say Dallas, excellent matchup. Still not a very good team defensively. When talking about Dallas, we where he's super cheap. I don't know if it's Yahoo or somewhere. I don't think Dwight Powell is out of play. They're not going to run him to the moon with him coming back off his injury. But he might get 25 minutes here. He tore an Achilles, I believe it was. So like they're not going to give him a ton of time. But we didn't mention him at all.
Right.
I have more interest than not mentioning it all. So quick shout out there for DP. Who doesn't love a good DP? Yeah. So but for the Lake Show there, I like Anthony Davis quite a bit. I have him at 36 minutes. I have LeBron at 30 minutes. So again, that makes that stretch a little easier for him. LeBron being limited again increases my interest in a couple other guys who correlate negatively with LeBron. Kuzma's in play for that reason. Not like well in play. I don't have him ranked well, but especially in your non-LeBron, non-AD lineups, I like Kyle Kuzma. If you're not investing heavily in this game, I'm absolutely fine with you getting back to, I think on FanDuel minimum price, Talen Horton-Tucker. This game blows out, he's going to play the whole fourth quarter, and he should be in the rotation regardless. Dennis Schroeder, obviously. But talk about Montrezl Harrell, because I was very critical of this move, and this will be the third guy we talked about who I don't really want him on the court in the postseason. Like he is, I've been a big fan of Montrezl Harrell. I've been calling him red tips and calling his name and picking him in fantasy. And like, I'm a big fan of him as a player since Houston. And he's not a good defender. He's really, really bad. So as energy center guy in the second unit, sure. But the way they got here to spend a lot more money, like they had Zubac, who they gave away for nothing, to the exact team they got Harrell for, to pay him probably more than he's worth. Like, I'm not gonna lie, their centers in the postseason should probably be Marc Gasol and Anthony Davis. Stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a little weird for me that they really tapped the house and constrained their budget in future years. So I'm critical of the signing. I'll just be that way. And, so when we look at this matchup, I do think you can get away a lot easier with Montrezl Harrell, but I do think Luka and other people can play him off the court a little. And yeah, Marc Gasol only played 12 minutes in that first game, but he had 5 personal fouls.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying I'm not shocked if the center minutes went 20 for Gasol, 24 for Harrell, and 4 for Anthony Davis today. That wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
So I view Harrell as much more of a GPP play than a cash play. I'll summarize my thoughts as that. A lot of people are like, Harrell and cash. I'd probably rather Brook Lopez. GPPs,
Sure.
I'm fine playing Montrezl Harrell. There's a huge ceiling. Even 24 minutes, Montrezl Harrell can go out, give you 45.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a little more interested in someone else for cash.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, you want to move on to the last game? We're under 9 minutes here. So Clippers and Nugs, real quick.
Go ahead, you're starting. Then we'll burn through some questions. I got 53 questions queued up across 4 accounts, so this will go well.
Marcus Morris, favorite.
We will run the show a little past noon to answer some of your questions. Because there's late swap, which applies to 90% of the questions you're asking. So hang out, we'll get your questions.
Yeah. My favorite NBA player, Marcus Morris Sr., out again for the Clippers today. Gonna keep, Batum and Luke Kennard, I think, open in GPPs, kind of as the last guy in. I'm fine with that. I have Ibaka and Zubac splitting the minutes down the middle. I believe that's what they played all 48 of the center minutes. They did not split them down the middle.
Right. They split them 21-27, but I also have them at 24-24 with very low confidence. But
I think that could fluctuate game to game, right? With those two.
I would honestly I will go out on a limb and say that I think I should probably project it the other way.
Okay.
They have Jokic. You don't want to let Jokic beat you. I honestly think Ibaka should. I think I would project those minutes together. I haven't published minute projections, so I don't have to change anything. And I have them ranked very similarly. They're the same price. I have them both as 5s in cash and 7s in GPPs. You can make an argument they could get up to 6s in cash. But I think Ibaka plays more minutes than Ivica Zubac.
Okay. My favorite guy on this team, in terms of who I'm getting to the most, is 5.2K Lou Williams on DraftKings. Fine with Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, obviously. Paul George looked great in the opener, and Kawhi Leonard is going to take a ton of shots today. But I'm getting more to Lou Williams just at the price point 5.2. He can get on top of that. That's really all I have from the Clippers, and whatever else you have to add before we get to the Nuggets side.
I don't have a ton to add there. The Clippers are falling through spaces for me a little bit here. Obviously, this is a Nuggets team that has played them fairly well in the recent past.
Yeah.
Paul George is still too cheap on a couple of places, and that I think it's FanDuel where he's still 7, whatever. That's
29 on Yahoo.
Yeah, both those numbers are too cheap. So he just too cheaps his way in there. I like him almost more as a cash game play. But it's a tough matchup. He does actually fine against Gary Harris, who played 42 minutes in the opener or something for Denver, if I recall correctly. But not a brilliant matchup for these guys, and I'm still waiting to see how this lineup comes out. So I do think Kawhi is under-owned versus his ceiling. I haven't said this yet, but for every fantasy sport, day 2 of the season is probably usually more popular than day 1 because everyone overreacts to day 1. So yes, Kawhi was bad in the first game against one of the best defenses in the NBA. He's still Kawhi Leonard, and he's going to go really, really under tonight. So it's tough because I've now expressed significant affection for Durant and Giannis and Luka and Steph. So it's tough to be able to get to all these price up options. But I do think, Kawhi goes off, especially in the late game, at 9% owned. That is probably too little.
I agree. Nuggets side?
Gotta like Jokic.
Yeah, love Jokic.
Yeah, it's a really, really nasty spot for Jamal Murray. For those who remember all the money we made last year in the playoffs, hi everybody. It was pretty easy because they came into this Clipper series after Jamal Murray putting up a gabillion points against the Jazz every single game, where he and Donovan Mitchell were like, let's make each other millions of dollars in contracts. Like, and that thing happened and it was great. And Jokic was kind of so-so because Gobert and other stuff. And they went into the next series and they were the same price, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic against the Clippers. And I'm like, this is like best possible matchup for Jokic and worst possible matchup for Murray. They're priced the same. I have Jokic for 19 more fantasy points a game, and that's exactly what happened. And it's still a really shitty matchup because you're Jamal Murray and you can do all kinds of wonderful stuff, in the right environment. And Patrick Beverley and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, etc., do not the right environment make. So Jokic, on the other hand, not a great matchup for him now that they've put, like when their centers were Zubac and Harrell. Yes, Jokic averaged like 70 fantasy points a game in that matchup because they're both terrible defensively. Ibaka's a big step up there, and that's the reason why I would prognosticate that he gets more minutes than Zubac out there because they probably want to win the basketball game at this point. It's a little more interesting with the coming of age of MPJ and Millsap there. But yeah, I like Jokic to run this team today and not Jamal Murray. I would probably have almost zero Jamal Murray. I just don't want to spend that money on him in this matchup. I guess maybe with all these other things going on, he can somehow pull that out of his ass, but that would be really surprising to me. There is literally everything stacked against him. This is a really good Clipper team, and that is the path of most resistance. To be like, all right, Jamal Murray, go out there and get your 50 is about the 38th best way for the Nuggets to win this team. Your commentary.
Yep. I completely agree. I have no interest in Jamal Murray on DraftKings. I have minimal interest on FanDuel in my 150 that I'm running. My favorite play here, based on my ownership, is Paul Millsap. With JaMychal Green out, this front court is thin because after you get Jokic and Millsap starting at the 4 and 5, and you're probably getting some minutes. To be honest, I did not look, but I would assume you're getting minutes of Michael Porter Jr. at the 4, maybe some Will Barton. Outside of those guys in the 4 spot, and then Jokic at the 5, Millsap some at the 5, you're playing Isaiah Hartenstein, who I think is a fine player, but I don't think he's going to get more than whatever minutes that Jokic is off the court today, and maybe even
I'm interrupt you because the 2 minutes out and the DK main is not going to fill.
Oh.
It is not quite going to rake.
Okay.
That's more important than anything else I have to say. So again, listen to the words I'm saying. This is going to rake 0%. Most of the other tournaments are going to rake 10 or 15%. You should put a lot of money into this right now. Whatever you thought your EV was, you went from having to surpass 15% rake to be profitable today to just being better than your average slub. And there is late swap. So just pile in some entries. Putts around for the 90 seconds you have with the first game, Miami and New Orleans. Don't play too many guys from it. Maybe make 2 different patches of lineups from that game. But that contest is not going to rake at all. It is going to take in $2.4 some odd million and pay out $2.5 million. So do that. And feel free to do that yourself, Zach. I want you to make some money. I can't.
Oh yeah, I am on the way.
So you are at 1 minute and 5 seconds. We will answer more questions after that, but we have covered all the games. And I do think that is a critical thing to do.
I agree. Throwing those in now.
So that is the most important thing. Again, any comment I make might be worth a percentage here or another percent there. And that is going to be worth well more than anything I'm going to say.
There we go. In there. We're under a minute, everybody. Apologies if we missed any of your questions there in the last 10 minutes.
I think we missed about 38 questions across all the things, but we're going to answer questions now. We can do ownership if people want, but
indeed.
But we will get in there. 250 people watching from YouTube. I missed you guys too. It's nice of you to come out, and I presume well more than that on the site because that's the link I put out. But we're live on YouTube also. So I got Discord chat, site chat. What tournament? The $2.5 million, $1 million to first giant tournament on DraftKings. I don't know what's called.
We're locked.
We are locked. So let's do. I guess we can do ownership and then think questions. It won't take long because, again, obviously we have only one live contest. So if you could, get into acquiring that, I don't see it. What is it called? The 2.5.
Yeah, it is the $2.5 million holiday basketball millionaire.
Nice. Nice how they call it holiday. It's the war on Christmas, Zach. I don't know if you knew that.
I was told that people are saying Merry Christmas again, though, Eddie.
I was told that was saved for us, which I was really worried about that because it was only, the most celebrated thing on the planet.
Yeah.
By the largest religion on the planet and like literally the most celebrated thing in human history. But apparently it was almost gone. So thank God Christmas has been saved for us.
Yeah, I agree. Still waiting for these to populate here. So
okay, on some of the bigger tournaments, I know it takes them a minute to get everything up and running. I'm just looking at all the questions in the chats.
Forest Fire, appreciate the heads up there. 5 minutes before lock that the DK main would not fill.
Did anyone give us a super chat? I haven't had a super chat in years.
I don't know. Can we get those? I guess on the YouTubes we can, huh?
Right, it would be on the YouTubes. I'm kicking back my chair. You let me know when that shit populates.
Yeah, we've populated here, downloading the CSV.
All right.
Oh wow. Well, I saw one in the lineup that I had open that is interesting.
I have the chats open, so nobody talk about. I only see Discord and actually the one on the site. My old man eyes on my 4K monitor. I can't read that. There's something being said. So
nobody posts ownerships.
Nobody posts. Nobody do anything. Nobody move.
Still loading here.
Okay, now you take your time. I'm sitting back. I'm gonna start thinking hard about Heat and Pelicans players. And then I'm gonna say Eric Bledsoe. So you let me know when I get to say Eric.
And we are, come on now, we are ready.
Eric Bledsoe.
Eric Bledsoe, number 1.
That's the easy part. Come down a little bit there. One of the reasons I was high on him is that I think he went under-owned. I heard people saying like 45, 50, 55 today. I think those numbers are high. I will say 38.
Bledsoe, 34.8.
34.8 to 35. That's nice. You know what I'm saying? Even on a 5-game slate, I heard people saying, like, I think it's like half-owned. And at half-owned, that would have been too much for me. I think that's positive. I would want to be at or slightly higher than that number, I think. But it's about. Now I have no goddamn idea. See, this is interesting. I as part of my process, read a lot of the coverage from the other sites. Mm-hmm. And they were much higher on the Heat than I was, based partially on what I consider to be a pervasive error that, like, this is a brilliant matchup. Mm-hmm. Really not anymore. The bad defender in this lineup is Zion. And Zion makes a lot of problems for you on every end of the court. Like, he's out of place and he does some real dumbass things. His head's not always phenomenal. But he's still a phenomenal athlete, which creates some issues on the offensive end for your team also. So, yeah, they're we'll see. So everyone hit me in a month. We need to get a big board to put up here where I say, defensive rating for the Pelicans. Other people are saying like 28th. I'm saying like 18th. I need to write that crap down. Rob, make us a virtual big board. Okay. But I think we're going to get into some heat here, much higher than we're going to get into like Pelly's. And I think I generally disagree with this. But anyhow, it's going to be. People aren't going to, like, one of the reasons I was really high on Ingram and Zion is they're going to both be under-owned.
Did this game start already?
Really? Like tip and going?
No way. Well, I just saw some things in the chat. Like, if it did start, then Myers Leonard must have got the first bucket or something. But
that would be great.
I don't think this. No, it hasn't started yet. Okay, we're just cheering on Myers Leonard in the starting lineups. Oh, well,
okay. You're a little late to that party, but welcome. Have a seat. Have some eggnog. All right. I'll move this along. I will say Bam Adebayo.
Sure. It is Bam number 2.
30.
31.2. You're right there.
Duncan Robinson.
Did not get there.
Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero, number 3.
24.
26.7.
That's a bit much for me.
Yep.
It's just a bit much for me. Like, that is not quite his. Like, I don't hate Tyler Hero, and he's pretty cheap, but I just can't project him within like 4 points of Eric Bledsoe. And again, if Eric Bledsoe is 55, well, then that makes a lot of sense to me. Eric Bledsoe is 35. I like that more than Tyler Hero. 25. It's just me. 27. Did you say? What did you say Tyler Hero was?
26.7.
Yeah, that's a bit much for me. Duncan Robinson.
Nope. Didn't quite get there to number 4. Duncan is number 5, though. And this is the number that I reacted to that I saw in my lineup when I downloaded the ownership.
So now you're
Number
giving me
4.
I'll say Goran Dragic then.
Yep. Number 4, Goran Dragic.
Higher than you wanted to see then.
Yes.
22, I guess, is in between.
Yeah. 20.3.
20.3. Yeah, higher than I would have thought. Not bad.
Yeah.
You're still fine.
Not crazy, but higher than I would have.
You were hoping you'd get 15. I mean, the fact that he's in there over.
Yeah.
So then Duncan, you said.
Yes.
18, 20. It's gonna be in there.
Yeah, right behind him, 19.5.
And then Zion.
No, did not get there.
Won't be Ingram. Reddick.
The next four are within 2%. Yeah, JJ Reddick is 6th.
All right, what is he at? 16.
14.5.
Really, they're all that low. God.
Yeah.
Reddick. So those 4 will be Reddick, Zion, Ingram, and Butler, I guess.
Yep, those are the 3.
We got Myers that low. All right, so I underestimated Myers.
Yeah.
If I knew he was going to be this low, I would have just said switch it all.
I
thought enough people were paying attention and would make that move, especially with him being forward center eligible. You said.
Yep. Yeah.
So he's a 9%.
I'm 6x the field here. He is 4.3.
I mean, don't misunderstand me. This is not, we talk all the time about there are 5, 10, 16 days a year where you make all the money by making this brilliant pivot. This is not that.
Right.
You predict slightly worse than Maxi Kleber for me. But Maxi Kleber is going to be 20, 30, 40% owned. 4% Myers Leonard is much better than that. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be killing.
I thought I was going to be like double the field with 30%, but 4.3.
Yeah, that's about what I thought. I thought I was going to get like 30% Kleber, and with 35 minutes before Lock the News coming out, I thought we would get,
mid to high teens.
Yeah, something like that. So 4% is what I expected, but good to know for keeping track of later. So like that's a nugget you should keep in the back of your head. If you get towards a sweat later, most people are not paying attention because that is a very low figure. I'll go ahead and just read it out, I guess.
Yeah, so after you went Jimmy, Brandon Ingram, Zion, all between 12 and 13, drop down to Lonzo at 6, which I like. Steven Adams 4.5, Myers Leonard 4.5, Kelly O 3.2, Mo Harkless 2.7, Josh Hart 2.5. Everybody after
Mo Harkless 2.7. That's how you make money, by the way. That is almost certainly dead. Like maybe he should be 1%, but there is a 50% chance he doesn't step on the court. And if he does, it's probably not for that much time. And I don't know what the hell you think Mo Harkless is doing for you in 9 minutes. So like that's almost dead money. We've had a few of those this year where I went, what are you, like TJ Warren was whatever the fuck that was on the 12-game slate. It was a 12-game slate and TJ Warren was like 6%. I'm like, that's insane. Like I went up the wall. I'm like, that's half the rake for the day. There's no way that came true.
Yeah.
And he played well more than I thought he would and had 7 fantasy points or something. So that's how you win, is not making just completely boneheaded shit. Like that 3% Mo Harkless is a quarter of your rake for the day.
Sure. Total of 212.88 ownership.
Right, so it's significantly higher owned. This game, average would have 160% ownership. and it's
Yep.
I don't think any better or worse than average, and it's 212. So this is well over owned. So yeah, at these ownerships, I would want as much or more Bledsoe. Less
I
of
think I want to be under on those.
more Myers,
Under on those
more
Heat
Lonzo,
guys, yeah.
more Lonzo. 6% Lonzo is too little.
Yeah.
6% Lonzo
But
is too little. And it's great leverage off the people who do have Bledsoe. So there's 3 guys I'd want to be over on and 11 guys I'd want to be under on here. Let's I'm gonna look through and I'm gonna because there's YouTube people I want to say hi to and other stuff. So we're gonna do the chat here. We're gonna stay on for a little bit. Rob, let us know if we have any hard off time here. Otherwise, let's Merry Christmas, everyone. Daddy likes. That was Daddy likes. I didn't actually say Daddy like, which I feel bad. There are people who have not had Daddy in their life in a long period of time, and so I will retroactively go back and say, Daddy likes 35% Eric Bledsoe, and Daddy loves Myers Leonard. He's got those muscly arms. Hey Myers, you like popsicles? And you better come on down to the cellar, because I got a whole freezer full of popsicles. There you go, Myers. All right, let's look at some questions. I will do the FTN site chat first and look at a couple things. Batum, I didn't give Batum a specific shout out because again, I'm looking most at DK. I put a lot of time in. I would love to do both sites more, but it would make it incredibly difficult to do rankings, and my daily amount of exposure time would go from 4 hours to 6, and I just don't have it. So I have to focus on one set of prices, which is DK, where Batum was a little bit poo. Now, he's not out of play, and I certainly ranked him as, now that we're locked, I can give a couple more of the rankings. You know what I have to do first? All right, I have to do the thing in the world I am worst at. You know what's the thing in the world I am worst at? You're probably thinking being humble, and I'm bad at that. But additionally, I'm bad at shilling. I am terrible at shilling. This is the 4th DFS content site I have worked at. And every boss I've ever had has landed somewhere in the range of occasionally mentioning to me, like, you know, Ed, you could sell the product. To, what the hell is wrong with you? We have 30 people who do this. You're out of here if you don't learn how to sell shit. So here we go. This show is sponsored by FTN Daily, your one-stop shop for all your daily fantasy betting and season-long fantasy needs. We are pretty great. We have some amazing advanced tools. Instead of shit DVP, we have advanced DVP, which is, great as opposed to openly misrepresentative. We have a brilliant staff of people. You have me doing things that could actually make you money in DFS 5 or 6 days a week for basketball. We obviously have Brad Evans and Elliot Christ and Kevin Adams and all these brilliant football people as well. I hear they're very good at what they do, but great group of guys, great batch of tools. I would not be in here if I didn't believe in it. I had many, many options. I chose to come here. So hopefully if you're watching the show, you have some respect for my judgment. I think if you buy NBA now, you get the rest of NFL for free. And if you use code FASTEDDY, I think you save another 5%. And so, I miss you guys. I miss your musk. I miss your earthy smell. I miss feel of your warm breath on the back of my neck. Anyway, so there it is. Yeah, I said I'm terrible. We were literally, the show was over. The show was over plus 10 minutes when I thought to shill. So I suck at it. I'm good at many things. But again, little cell phone there. I'm terrible at that. Okay, there we go. That out of the way. Now, let us answer some questions. I will first go to the FTN site check here, and this way you get my profile. This is my good side. There it is. How's that look? You know what? I actually got one more moral polemic, one more piece of opining to do. You know the thing I said about reaching out to somebody?
Yeah.
You know what's the greatest gift? The biggest mitzvah is to reach out to somebody you haven't spoken to in a long time and who are you pissed at or you hate. It's tough. We take that anger and we make it a whole thing. And it turns into some sort of perverted principle. But forgiveness is the absolute greatest of things. And none of us, not you, not me, not anyone, is perfect. And when I look back at my life, I've tried to live a moral life and a good life, but I have done some fucked up shit to people. I have made some serious mistakes. And I would like to someday be forgiven for those things. So whether they are a parent who hasn't been as caring and supportive of you as they should have been, someone who cheated on you or cheated from you in some way, reach out to someone and say, that shit was terrible, and I just want a little more of that crap off my soul this holiday season. So I just wanted to say, sorry, things didn't work out well between you and me, but I hope you're doing well. It's tough, but it feels good when you can get that into your repertoire of humanity. I'm a much happier, more productive person now than I've been at any point previously in my life. And a lot of it's come from just letting that shit go. I have had people in the DFS business screw me. I've let it go. I have had people in my personal life not treat me well. The number of people I have lent money to who have not paid me back is significant. And I'm not willing to lose my happiness for any of those things. So the thing we said before about reaching out to somebody, if you want bonus points on the Fast Eddie scale, make it somebody you have no reason to reach out to. Forgive someone. Be the bigger person in a relationship. All right. There it is. Here we go. I swear to God, I'm done.
Amen to that.
If you want, you can say your own really haughty, pompous thing, because I swear the tweets are so much fun. Like the other day, I tweeted the day before yesterday, congratulations on all my fellow content providers who made it through today. Today was really tough. You get a day off. You deserve it. And I was just trying to be nice to the people who don't work with me at this company, because that was a tough goddamn day. Now, fantasy sports is an incredibly easy job. I know I have 2 fantasy sports jobs. It's incredibly easy. My hands are very soft. No honest work being done here whatsoever. Please don't misunderstand. But in the scope of doing a fantasy sports job, Wednesday was as tough as it fucking gets. There were 13 games. I have another full-time job. We were 2 days into the season. That was a lot of shit to handle all at once. So I was just thinking, I got to the end of the day where I did 2 hours or an hour and a half of a show, 3 hours of watching chat, 7 hours of prep, and whatever the fuck. And at the end of the day, I'm like, dear God, and trying to be a nice guy, sent out a tweet that basically said, shout out to my brothers and sisters in the fantasy content industry today who did a great job. You're going to get a day off tomorrow. You deserve it. And people hit me back with, oh, that's it. Eddie thinks they're fucking first responders and firefighters and organ donors. I'm like, dude, I was just like standing around the water cooler. Like if I worked an office job and instead of an 8-hour day, we had overtime and had to do inventory, I might turn to the other people at my job and be like, guys, that was a tough day. That's it. I wasn't asking for a parade or a national day of prayer or anything, but people gave me some crap, and so I let some people direct me to make some donations to first responders and stuff. And perhaps my words were unintentionally insensitive, but that was a tough day. Okay, I'm talking about basketball now, I promise. Okay, JJ Reddick, the pivot from Bledsoe. I think Lonzo Ball is the pivot from Bledsoe. Again, this has all started, so it doesn't matter. But for reference, I would have said that Lonzo Ball is the pivot from Bledsoe. People talking about playing thing. What's up with 15 minutes before log? Zero info on the FanDuel cheat sheets. I think, whereas I'm grateful to Zach for putting in the time today, and obviously I'm here, and Kyle Murray went out and did projections and ownership and all kinds of stuff. It's Christmas morning, y'all. So we did not have our full amount of normal content. Should that bother you as a subscriber? I apologize. It's Christmas morning, y'all. Many of us did the best we could. And for other people, I'm never going to ask anyone at any of the jobs I work at not to spend Christmas morning with their family. So love you, but tough titty.
Yeah. I will also say this just for me personally, and I don't know if, any of the other FTN NBA folks, do the same at all, but a lot of times I'm hand building on the show, especially my DraftKings lineups. So I don't know what my exposures are going to be, and that changes as we go. And I think I've certainly been very willing to share what my exposures are on any player, if anybody asks in the chat. But that's why I don't. The cheat sheets is a bit tedious to do while you're actually building, just for full transparency on that. So when I do a couple, sometimes this season I will have my lineups built out before the show, and in that case, I will have the cheat sheets filled out. But never, if I don't get to it in chat, whoever that was that asked that question, shoot me a DM. I try to get to those as much as possible, and I'm here to help. Feel bad when somebody feels like they're being shorted, but again, Christmas morning in particular today.
Yeah, I'll draw an exception there. Like I worked every single day of the bubble. We have a lot of guys who put in a lot of time. Kyle got up and did. I have no idea how much time that takes, but he does excellent projection and ownership, and it's Christmas morning. So I think it's a profitable site of the year, and you have certainly the right to expect some content. And there are other sites that just did all their stuff yesterday, and some kind of punted it entirely. But I will say one of the things that I try to say to people who are critical of my comments on Twitter or whatever is that I try to get better at this job, just like you should try to get better at your job. Like there are a lot of skills of being a DFS player that you should constantly be keeping an eye on. And I think actually most people are like, be consistent, be whatever. I generally think that's terrible advice in DFS. I think you want to be fluid like water. And as a host, it's really tough to know what to talk about and how to talk about and how much time to give to something and whether or not it's worth me taking 30 seconds to update the rankings in lieu of answering another question. Like, this stuff's really difficult. So content is not quite as simple. Like a lot of people are like, these guys suck. They just run out and say, play everyone every day. I attempt to really nuance that by creating an entire GPP field for you and giving you literally a numerical basis of this guy better than this guy, this guy. Like I can't, you come back to me at the end of the day, every day and be like, you said, this guy, then this guy, then this guy, then this guy, and this guy. And I will be wrong many times every single day. But I put a lot of nuance in there. I do not do a lot of just, I like all these guys. So let's look at YouTube because I missed those guys. Daddy Eddie is going to lay the smackdown today. Yeah, in my Christmas Gansey. Talking. I missed you, Eddie. I missed you too. They're curious if there's a basketball in Jesus's hand on your shirt, Kawhisenberg.
No, there's not. He's just, I guess proclaiming from the top of a raptor. I don't know if you can see that, but
a raptor?
Yeah.
A dinosaur?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lasers on its head. See that?
Oh, so it's like a futuristic laser raptor.
Yeah, birthday boy. Taking a raptor ride.
Happy birthday, Jesus. Full Metal Jacket style. You don't think Curry is a good play today? Drew Holiday is going to bother him. Like, I'm not happy Drew Holiday is there, but that doesn't factor enough for me to think that, but it's good thinking. Like Drew will be on him a fair amount. Lonzo over under 6.5 assists. I would have under that. I think I'd have 5 to 5.5 when I was looking at it. KD has a lot less hair now. That's it. That's true. He's gone a little thin. Him and Braun are line for line there. Schroeder or Hero. Seeing the ownership I see now, obviously this is not valid as a either or, as a binary at the moment. I would be a little more inclined towards Dennis Schroeder than Hero at the number he was at. I think you get him lower owned than that, and I liked him a little more.
Right now, just a little update for you. Bam Adebayo has a turnover and nothing else, I believe, with negative half DK points. Myers Leonard, 5 3/4.
Oh my!
So we like that.
Enough to do a lot.
We like that early.
So how about Batum? Yeah, Batum, I was fine on FanDuel. DK, he's going to be really unproductive in that team. So even if you think he gets 28, 30 minutes again, you'd project him for like 18 or 16, which is not an irrelevant number. And again, FanDuel minimum price. All right, we're having a conversation. DK. So Eddie, you're fading Antetokounmpo on FanDuel. That's fine. He's not like if you said you had none in 150, that's obviously very dangerous, but he's going to be very, very popular and he's massively expensive. So you're just taking a big risk. I don't think it's an insane one. Like he needs to score 65 for you to really be fuck certain, probably. It totally depends what everyone else scores. Like if you're playing no Giannis, that means you're over on Durant, Steph, Luka, etc. And if all those guys put up 75, then Giannis' 70 doesn't bother you at all. So it's all relative of what you're thinking of those guys. And it's also inherently, when you fade the most expensive player on the slate, you're also casting an aspersion at the value. If you're just like, look, I don't think Myers Leonard and Maxi Kleber get there, then you have to like Giannis less as well. One does come with the other. They're related quantities. How many points ahead would Milwaukee have to be to full starters? 15 to 20? Almost certainly not 15 in this matchup. If they're up 20, that's around the line. It depends how much time is left. 20 with 3 minutes left, they're out. 20 with 5 minutes left, they're probably out. 20 with 7 minutes left, I wouldn't be certain. So that's you're in the ballpark. Pringles is coaching that team. Nash is just a face. Okay. Like the crisp. Okay. Myers Leonard starting. Leonard might play 16 minutes. Yeah, I'm not super. Again, I give my commentary on that. I think it was about right. But I will say my issue with the number of 21 or whatever is that is an aggregate and almost certainly not accurate. Like he might play 8 minutes and 8 minutes. That's true. I think that's the floor. One quarter would really surprise me. But just playing 8 minutes to start each half, I think that's the floor. You get like 16 minutes out of him, which is not a nightmare at 3,400, but possible. 21 exactly is pretty unlikely. it's going to go like 16-24 more likely. Like, it's kind of weird that he would end up at around 20. Usually the third quarter would put him over that number. 2 quarters would keep him under. Got to check my lines. Holiday or Curry on FanDuel? Curry. But don't get me wrong, I like Drew Holiday fine. And I'm fine with both of those two men. Wait, we're starting Grant Williams. I don't think we know who you're starting, but you could be starting Grant Williams. That wouldn't shock me. Did we get a Celtics lineup and I missed it?
I have not seen one.
Okay, I'll assume I didn't. Merry Christmas, y'all smoke weed. All right. Who's worthy to play on DK? That's sort of a big question. We covered that quite a bit. Good to see you too. Much blesses, Philip. Zach is no slouch also. You hear that? You're no slouch, Zach. Did you ever think you'd be so successful as to be referred to as no slouch?
That's very nice.
And isn't it great? It's nicer than most of
Christmas. Warm and fuzzy feeling.
Someone says they're starting Luke Kennard. Yes, I have a 100% perfect record on projecting Luke Kennard this year. I projected him for 21 minutes and 15 fantasy points, both right on the nose. Probably going to go down today, but I like him much more today than I liked him on that previous slate because people will overreact and he will be under-owned today relative to being kind of over-owned on that first slate, in my opinion. So,
sure.
One chat down, 2 chats down. I'm checking the Discord. Is there anything left in the Discord to which we'd respond? I'll punt that one to you.
Not that I see, at least in the Discord. Pretty much caught up. We've got some good thank you, some Christmas wishes in there the last 10-15 minutes, and all of that is reciprocated by us, folks. Love you all.
Yeah, I don't think I would do this if not for the people. You guys are what I have in lieu of actual friends. So it sounds a little dismissive, but isn't meant to be. But no, I really enjoy the community of DFS people. We have a vocal minority that can be a bit asshole-ish, but I generally have nothing but love for any of you. And again, reach out if I can ever do anything for any of you. And I really hope you have a great holiday, whatever you celebrate, that you got something from someone who cares about you, because that feels nice. Anything else you want to say to the people, Zach?
I'll say to our buddy Alan in the chat, he says if he wins today, he's going to get you a Dino Jesus shirt.
That's great. That's what I love. People are like, I'll give you 10%. I'm like, I don't want 10% because you're going to lose tomorrow and you're going to want that 10%. But people are like, I'll buy you a fruit basket. I'm like, oh, I'll take a fruit basket. Like, it's not, generally I will take Snape. Like, you can Snape me. That's fine. It'll go on the shelf behind me. Or, like an edible arrangement or a charitable donation is my favorite when people hit like 5 digits or something. But if like you won $1,000 and want to send me a cookie, I'll accept your cookie and put it on the shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. Stewie, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
That was someone asked about, did someone talk about this? And go ahead. I was going to defer to what you were going to mention.
So our friend Stewie in the Discord had posted a FanDuel lineup earlier, asking for our thoughts on it. And it is Steph Curry, Luka Doncic at point. He's got Bledsoe locked in right now in the game that is already tipped. DiVincenzo, small forward, Jaylen Brown, Dorian Finney-Smith, KD, and Kuzma at the power forward, and Trez Harrell at center. Just being on FanDuel earlier today, I'm not super high on Kuzma. I had some shares because he's only 4,200. But there, I'll just go over to my lineups for you, Stewie, and tell you where I was. I mean, I love Zion there. Obviously, he's already locked at the power forward position. There was, I want to say maybe it was Millsap that I was heavy on there as well. Just pulling that up real quick. Luka, Steph, I still think the Steph, he's only 8,700 there on FanDuel, Eddie. So I think the correlation between him and Giannis is less important there. But I would still like to have.
It's less important to validate the play. Yeah. Like, it's more likely that 3/4 and
I mean, if you could, Giannis is $300 more expensive there. I don't know. I'm fine with having Steph and Luka there in the point guard. I would like to personally get off the Kuzma, but trying to see what I can do for you. I mean, James Wiseman at center.
Does he have neither LeBron nor Anthony Davis?
Neither of them, no.
No, then I don't mind Kuzma because either of those guys having trouble makes that work a lot of ways. So like I don't target it, but I'm fine with Kuzma in a lineup with neither of the big dogs.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you've got 4,900 Paul Millsap. So I think I would prefer dropping Trez to $4,200 James Wiseman and going up to Millsap over Kuzma. But that's just me. What is this?
I'm showing my stream deck to. They're talking about it in the chat, and I was like, I have my Twitch account set up through my Elgato stream deck. We were talking about Christmas gifts.
Oh, gotcha.
I have that one. It's a little thing. And my stream, if we do this thing, I'll Twitch it. I have not set my Twitch up and run it in a month and a half. But if they want to do this Call of Duty game today, we can do Christmas Call of Duty. I will put it on my Twitch stream and set up my basketball mini game and the whole thing there. You've seen the basketball mini game. You're a multiple time winner.
Oh, 2-time champ.
Yeah.
Me and Kawhi. Yeah, talking about video games, I really am not much of a video gamer, but I do enjoy the FIFAs. So if anybody wants to get down on some FIFA, I have a couple buddies that will do co-op as well. So if you've got a 2 squad in FIFA 21, shoot me a DM. We'll take on any challengers. Me and my buddy Big E. Not sure if Big E's still watching the chat or watching the stream, but yeah, shout out Ian.
Well, thanks everyone for coming in. We're gonna take off for now. So on behalf of Zank, of course, and Rob behind the virtual glass, the best in the business at production, I hope to see you around the FTN streets if you're not there already. And if not, I'll talk to you on the Twitter sphere. Have a great holiday. Good luck today.
Merry Christmas.